Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome. My name is Lacey and this is my art channel. So something new but fun today, I decided to subscribe to ScrawlrBox. If you've been on art YouTube for a while, you've probably seen one of these before. They're pretty popular in the art community. Basically, you subscribe online and they send you a box every month full of art supplies. I also think it comes from the UK. They give you a monthly challenge, and the idea is that you use the supplies in the box to create an illustration. I actually opened this box before the video because my husband really wanted to see what was inside, but I'm super excited to be sharing it with all of you as well. Okay, so first off we have the tissue paper. This is holding all of the art supplies. Next, we have the Scrawler Design. This is like a little booklet that tells you all about the art supplies. They also choose an artist who creates an illustration using the supplies. This month's artist is Christina Kwan. She talks all about her experience using the mediums. And then we have the Scrawler Gallery. This showcases artists who have made illustrations using the previous month's box. I actually did read the Scrawler Design and I tried to use some of the tips that they had about using acrylic ink since I've never used it before. This is Christina Kwan's illustration as an art print, and then we have some paper. I was actually really excited to try out some new paper since I feel I don't have a ton of experience using different types of paper. So we're gonna see how that goes. Now we're gonna put this box aside and I'm gonna go ahead and show you the art supplies that was in the tissue paper. And we have a sticker, so every month it comes with a sticker that's kind of in the theme. I thought that was cute. And then we have the challenge, which is in bloom, so we're gonna have to try to keep that in mind when we decide what we're gonna draw. It says, "This month's box is in bloom, taking a botanical influence from our featured artist. We encourage you to experiment with the opacity of the inks and how they layer over one and another. See how they form entwining elements in your work, and play with mark making to create undefined shapes and organic forms." So this is the paintbrush it came with, the number 6, and it was a very nice paintbrush, probably the best one I've ever used as of yet. And then we had these liquid acrylic colors, and again, I've never used these, so I was really excited to try it out. Then we have these graphics fine liners. We have 4 different sizes. We have the 0.2, 0.4, 0.8, and the brush, and I'm going to show you the tips on them. Then we had this candy, Center Shock, and I think it was like apple flavored. This is what it looks like. Overall, I was really excited to try each of these out, as it was definitely a medium that I wouldn't have chosen for myself, so I thought it was really fun to practice something new. Okay, so I got out my Illo sketchbook and I wanted to swatch and test the mediums and get a good feel for them and then sketch out some ideas for my illustration. I went ahead and stuck the sticker in here, and later you'll see that I'll add that little card with the prompt on it as well. That way we don't forget what the prompt was for this box. And I also got out my paint palette so that way I could pour the ink on there and use it like that. I first started with just the ink, and then the second swatch is with just a bit of water. Just wanted to dilute it and see how it would react. And then the third swatch is straight from the bottle. These techniques were suggested in the design, so I wanted to try them out. And I would also try out just putting a little water on the paper and then adding the ink to it. I did like that, but it was harder to control. I think that if you just want like a fun background, it could be an option. I did find that the ink was very similar to watercolor in the feel of it, since it was very thin like watercolor and you could add water, so it definitely reminded me of watercolor, but it was more like acrylic in other ways. Like, for example, in watercolor it's easy to blend on the paper, and acrylic I find it easier to blend on the paint palette. At least that's my opinion. And I found this ink was also easier to mix in the palette and then put it on the paper. And when you did layer the acrylic inks, they were more likely to kind of stack on top of one another rather than like mix together like watercolor does on the paper. These are just my observations while using the medium. Maybe others have different opinions, but just as somebody who doesn't know how to use it, that was my opinion. Now, I did find it a bit difficult to get used to the paintbrush. Now, the brush itself was super smooth. I really loved it, but the handle was very thin. And now you may have noticed that I don't hold my pencil or my paintbrush like most people. I get comments about that a lot. It's true. I've always held my writing utensil like that. And for me, I get used to a certain width of pencil. Like, it's hard for me to change pencils because I get really used to the way it feels. And so for this paintbrush, it was very thin and I just really needed to get used to it. And also, I need to support my entire hand on the paper. That's just the way I hold my pencil. And I kept sticking my entire hand in the paint, not during the swatches, but later when I do the illustration. And then I quickly realized I needed to do the illustration in small segments so the paint would have time to dry. The acrylic ink didn't take long to dry, but the fine liners took so long. Actually, to be honest, I didn't really love the fine liners, and I don't think I would ever buy those for myself, just because I was always so irritated that it took so long for them to dry and I kept smudging them, but just I didn't think it would take that long. Overall, I am proud of the work that I did do, and I think this could be a medium that I return to during Inktober. After I swatched the colors, I put some red ink down and then white on top of it, and then I put white down and yellow on top of it just to see if the colors would blend together, but like I said before, they just kind of stacked on top of one another. Then I mixed some of the colors, red and yellow to make orange, green and yellow to make a more plant-like color, and the red and green and a bit of white to make the purple. The red and green colors were similar to magenta and cyan, similar to the colors that you get in a printer. My friend said that and I thought that was like 100% correct. The red was very pink-esque on paper and the green had a lot of blue in it, so it wasn't hard to change the color when you mix them. The only thing I did observe was that when you mixed a lot of the colors together, like when I made the purple I had to use 3 different colors, it did separate in the palette and I had to stir it quite often. I think it may have been the amount of white that I had to use, and I think that because the white often separated in the bottle and I had to continuously shake it before using. After that, I decided to put some water down and drip some ink on it. That was another technique suggested in the design. I found the result to be interesting and it could be good for backgrounds, but you know, it is harder to control like that. After that, I decided to swatch the fine liners, and then I will start sketching some ideas for the illustration. So when I was trying to decide what to draw for this illustration, I was looking at the colors yellow, red, and green and taking the in bloom prompt into consideration. I remembered that I had seen a lot of illustrations recently that had red strawberries with yellow seeds and green leaves, but that reminded me of an illustration I had created in one of my bullet journals that had a frog with a strawberry on its head, so I decided to use that idea here. If you've been around my YouTube channel for a while or my other social media, you may have noticed that I love the kawaii style, but in the kawaii style, I've seen a lot of frogs that look like this, which is totally fine. I think they're cute, but I did want my frog to look a little bit more realistic, so I started looking at pictures of real frogs and toads. And I found it kind of funny that everyone depicts frogs sitting with their knees up like this, but frogs and toads sit more on their stomach like this. So I did want to depict that in my illustration. I sketched out some different frogs, just changing some of the characteristics and positioning and seeing what I liked and disliked. And I also wanted to have a couple of different sketches to just practice the ink out on as well. With the strawberry on its head, it kind of reminded me of a wizard and made me feel like this frog was going to give us a side quest, so I put it on a mushroom. I feel like you'd see this frog in like a mysterious forest or like some kind of a mystical land, so I did want to keep that in mind. And once I painted the strawberry on its head, I thought it also kind of reminded me of a gnome, which is kind of cute, but it's okay. I tried out the designs and the inks, and I thought I had a good enough idea for the illustration, so I took one of the acrylic papers that came with the ScrawlrBox and I taped it to my desk, and then I got started painting it. I wrote down some thoughts that I had on the supplies, some of which I've already mentioned, and I won't go into like a lot of detail since I have mentioned most of these, but I did just want to briefly let you know what I thought of the box overall. So 1, the pen smudges, so just give it time. 2, the colored ink dries fairly fast. 3, you need at least 3 layers for the red to look red and for the green as well, because the green had a lot of blue in it. So you just have to layer it. It will start to look more green, though I did find the yellow to be fairly potent. 4, it's better to mix the colors in the palette. 5, you can dilute the colors with water like watercolor, but the ink doesn't blend like watercolor. Instead, it layers similarly to acrylic. 6, you need a good amount of ink to splatter, but luckily the paintbrush holds a lot of ink. I think I didn't show me splattering in the video, but I did test it out, so you'll see it on the page eventually. 7, the colored ink doesn't smudge the ink pen, but your hand does. 8, you have to shake the bottles frequently to stop them from separating, especially the white, but it does create a lot of bubbles in the ink, which is another reason I recommend you putting it in the palette first before just using it directly from the bottle. 9, the paintbrush was super smooth. It had a good fine tip, easy to clean, holds a lot of ink. Highly recommend. 10, the paper is rough and has lines when painted on, which is good if you want texture. I think it'd be really good for acrylic paint, but it was a little bit odd with this ink. Overall, I did enjoy creating this illustration, and I think it would be something fun to try again when Inktober comes around, but I don't think it's something I would have bought for myself, and I definitely didn't recommend the fine liners. I think there's probably a lot of better options out there, but again, that's just my opinion. I do highly recommend the paintbrush, and I actually may look for these in the future. Even though this wasn't my medium of choice, I did have fun, and I look forward to the next month's ScrawlrBox. My ScrawlrBox videos will always be a month late because I live in Canada and it does take a while for the box to reach me. But you should all let me know if you like this type of video in the comments below, or what other types of videos you'd like to see, because then I'll know what types of videos to make more of, and I would love to chat with you in the comments. If you want to draw this illustration, you should tag me on social media so I could see it. My link tree is in the description, so once you click that link, you'll be able to see all of my social media links. Also, if you want to directly help me and my channel, please consider clicking the like and subscribe buttons down below. I'm not going to chat through the rest of this video, but instead I'm just going to put on some music, and I do look forward to seeing all of you in the next video. I hope all of you stay for the rest of the video because this is not the final illustration. I'm actually going to get another piece of paper out, like I said, and I think that you guys will like how it turns out in the end. I know I did. And if you made it this far, comment down below with either a frog emoji or a strawberry emoji, and I look forward to seeing you guys next time. Bye!
When you're not here, the sun don't shine. When you're not near, I don't feel like I do when you're with me. It felt like suddenly our souls collided, hearts entwined. When I decided to make you mine, I'm never going back. I know that's a fact, but how do I know if it's love that I'm speaking of? This is love if I'm making you breakfast. This is love if I feel myself coming down when you're not around. This is love if I think I've gone crazy. This is love if it seems I don't care at all. That your love hit me like a cannonball. I used to worry about my options, yeah, I used to think too much. I think too much, but with you I forget my worries. Behind me they can't touch me now. Yeah, that's how speaking.